The smell of burning incense, mixed with something heavier, hung over the high terraces of ancient Carthage. Below the temple of Baal Hammon, the city's elite gathered in solemn procession, not to mourn the fallen of war, but to offer them. Bound in linen or fine cloth, the gifts to the gods were carried not in reverence, but in resignation. These were not lifeless statues or animals for slaughter. They were human lives, sometimes the most noble, sometimes the most powerless, given in sacrifice. According to the 1st century BCE historian Diodorus Siculus, 200 children from noble families were publicly offered to the gods. Each was placed upon the outstretched bronze hands of Kronos and lowered toward the ceremonial fire below, an act believed to secure divine favor. The brazier beneath the towering god was no mere symbol. It radiated real heat and purpose. The statue's hands were angled downward, designed to guide the offering toward the flames below. This was not poetic devotion. It was a declaration to the gods, to their enemies, and to the city itself. Historian Plutarch would later write of this ritual's emotional violence. He recounts that mothers stood nearby, expected to remain silent. Even if she uttered a single sound, he wrote, the offering proceeded as planned. Music was played to mask the cries. What mattered to the priests wasn't silence. It was the appearance of willing piety. Even sound itself was forced into submission. This wasn't a tale spun by Rome to vilify a rival. The KNMY stele, a genuine Carthaginian inscription, confirms the practice from within their own culture. To the Lady Tinnet Fanable and to the Lord Baal Hammon, KNMY vowed his own flesh. In Punic tradition, this phrase carried a meaning that was deeply personal and unmistakably literal. Excavations at Carthage's Topet, a sacred burial ground and shrine, have revealed thousands of urns containing traces of ritual offerings, including infants and small animals. While some scholars debate whether all was ceremonial, Roman North African Christian writer Tertullian claimed the practice continued both publicly and privately. Clitarchus, writing closer to Carthage's own time, described the moment when ritual fire met the offering. He claimed the victims' expressions would freeze, their bodies tense, almost as if they were smiling. To the Carthaginians, this may have signaled divine acceptance. To their enemies and modern eyes, it signaled something else entirely, the brutal ritual sacrifice of prisoners and innocents alike, a terror not of battle, but of belief. And as the drums echoed across the city, Carthage's enemies listened, not just to the sound of horror, but to a message written in fire. This is how Carthage honors those it offers. Carthage's ruthless grip, brutal slave labor. In the shadow of Carthage's towering harbors, the clang of metal echoed from the shipyards. Beneath the grandeur of the empire's commercial might, a darker force pulsed. Rows of enslaved captives, men, women and children seized in war, moved under the whip, building the very heart of Carthage's economy. These were not Carthaginian citizens, nor criminals of their own society. They were foreign enemies, dragged from conquered cities, chained by conquest, and condemned to toil beneath one of the ancient world's wealthiest powers. According to the World History Encyclopedia, Carthage used enslaved enemy populations extensively, forcing them into all manner of tasks, in the city and in the countryside, as well as in the Carthaginian navy during the Punic Wars. Conquered peoples were turned into state resources. Adult men were packed into warships, chained to oars, where they rowed not for their survival, but for the glory of the very city that had broken them. In Carthage's bustling markets and coastal shipyards, it was these same enslaved hands that laid stone, moved goods, and built empire. Britannica confirms that Carthage built wharves, markets, and factories with slave labor. Behind the elegance of marble floors and public plazas stood the crushed lives of those who were never meant to return home. Nor were women or children spared. While ancient records name few of them directly, the daily realities of ancient Carthaginian life offer a grim silhouette. As described by the archaeologist, slavery was embedded into the very fabric of urban and rural life. Slaves worked in households, workshops, and agricultural fields. In workshops, enslaved women might be found grinding grain from sunrise to dusk, while children carried baskets of olive pulp or clay for pottery kilns. On the outskirts of the city, whole families of foreign captives laboured in vineyards and granaries under constant watch. For Carthage, slavery was not a side effect of war. It was a pillar of its civilization. Not all prisoners were even given the mercy of labour. The fate of captives taken during Carthage's mercenary war offers a brutal contrast. In one stark account, recorded by Polybius and preserved through later summaries, Carthage is said to have used war elephants in public displays of punishment against enemy captives. The act was not about labour. It was a demonstration of dominance through fear. If slaves were tools, prisoners were warnings, and that message echoed beyond Africa's coast. In the great ports of the Mediterranean, whispers of Carthage's slave-driven power stirred both awe and fear. The empire's wealth did not rest solely on trade, but on the backs of those who were never meant to profit from it. Execution by terror, Carthage's savage message to the world. The streets of Carthage were silent, but not empty. Torches lined the procession route, casting sharp shadows across stone walls and watching faces. At the centre, bound and broken, marched Mathos, once a rebel commander, now a public example. He was not taken to a quiet cell or judged in a court. He was dragged through the city by force, paraded before the very citizens who had once feared his uprising. And there, surrounded by an angry crowd, he was tortured to death by the people of Carthage themselves. Carthage's use of execution was never only about punishment, it was about performance. It was a calculated message sent to enemies within and beyond the city's walls. Defiance would not be forgotten, and surrender would not spare you. The fate of Mathos came at the end of the mercenary war in 238 BCE. A brutal internal conflict following Carthage's defeat in the First Punic War. But Carthage's response to rebellion wasn't limited to one man. Ancient accounts report that 700 captured enemy soldiers taken during the uprising were subjected to a collective punishment of chilling scale. According to surviving accounts, the captives were subjected to ritualized punishment and interred beneath the earth. Carthage did not merely silence its enemies, it buried them beneath its feet. This was execution as warning, and it was deeply deliberate. Unlike battlefield death, these acts were seen, heard, and remembered. One of the most enduring and contested tales of Carthaginian cruelty comes from a Roman legend. The capture and torture of Marcus Atilius Regulus, a Roman general taken prisoner during the First Punic War. According to Roman sources, the Carthaginians placed Regulus inside a narrow wooden box studded with sharp spikes. Unable to sit, sleep, or lean without discomfort, he endured prolonged suffering until his death. Whether this story was fact or fiction, it spread across the Roman world. It was told in forums and classrooms, recited by senators and soldiers, and it became part of a broader narrative that would follow Carthage for centuries. That of a civilization willing to inflict suffering not just to win wars, but to send a savage message to the world. In Carthage, fear was strategy. Execution became spectacle. And cruelty, whether real or remembered, was shaped into a symbol of control. From sacrificial fires to chains and public terror, Carthage forged power through fear. These acts reshaped Mediterranean rivalries, stiffened Roman resolve, and warned how far a state will go to survive. Comment below, did Carthage's brutal message secure its dominance or speed its downfall? Carthage sent not a warning, but a demand: yield to us or become our monument.